maybe in 50 years, this YouTube video is going to find somebody and they're going to be like, hey, these girls were having that conversation. They were part of
Yeah,
the leading edge. This is part of the collective consciousness switching around.
I hope
Because we
so.
do. We need to find our way. We need to find our way back. And I'm hopeful that that is definitely happening. I wish
Mm,
it was happening faster, but I think it is definitely happening.
mm. Hello and welcome back to a Woman Refined podcast. I am your host, Lauren Renee, as always. And this month on the podcast, we have Kayla Brooks. Kayla is Flex Your Feminine, one word, on Instagram, and she is a fitness trainer. But she does biological strength training and cyclical kingdom living. This is a whole new way of training, ladies. And we go and unpack all of that today. Really excited to have her on. She was one of the first people I came across that I was like, yes, this woman knows what she's talking about. And you'll hear her story and kind of how she got to that point where she had to burn out herself to learn. So if you are interested in getting your body to the place that you want it to be at, but in a way that isn't going to go against your biology and isn't going to burn you out, she's your woman. I hope you enjoy this chat. All of the links for her are going to be in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd love to hear about it. My email, you can give me an email and tell me what you think. My email is a womanrefinedpodcast@gmail.com, or you can simply DM me on Instagram, a_woman_refined. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Kayla Brooks. And I will see you next month for more. Kayla, welcome to A Woman Refined.
Hi, Lauren. Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to actually meet you in person. You and I haven't chatted that much, but I have seen your stuff so much from all the other women that I admire and respect and follow online. And I was like, I have to check this woman out. And I came across your stuff and I was like, yes, 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 yes. Everything. I was just like, yes. And again, yes. It doesn't matter what you share. I'm like, yep, agree. So I was like, yep, okay, I have to get you on. And you made a great post. Because I don't, maybe I should let you explain kind of what you do to those who don't know you, because you're Flex Your Feminine online. And then we might go into like kind of what drew me to to reaching out. But yeah, go ahead and tell people what you do.
Totally. Yeah. So my name's Kayla. I go by Flex or Feminine on socials. You can find me in any variation of that handle. You can find me at flexfeminine.com. And I am like the anti-influencer for the fitness matrix, I call it. So I'm not the normal personal trainer, fitness coach guru. So if you go check my content out, like as I'm sure Lauren's gonna share her thoughts on here shortly, you'll notice that it's not this is your 3 steps to a perfect squat, and this is how you eat as little as possible to look good in a bikini this summer, and do this crash diet and take this questionable supplement and all those things. And there's also no like OnlyFans-esque angles in my content either, and that is on purpose. So it's just I'm kind of the anti everything of the mainstream fitness matrix, and most centrally, my mission and my ministry is focused around helping God's daughters to break free from the hustle that this hyper masculine hustle matrix is all oriented around. The fitness industry is extremely hyper masculine. And it's not that I'm a man hater. That's not what I mean by that. I think your audience understands language pretty well and nuance there. But there has to be the balance. And there's a reason why masculine and feminine was created in that circuitry. So, yeah, Flex Your Feminine is all about bringing the feminine back in and introducing women to that feminine side of fitness is so much stronger than they've been told it is. And we're not supposed to just dissociate from our bodies. We're actually supposed to learn a lot from her. So that's what I do. I just make introductions to everything that you have already within you that God put there for a reason.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I have my background before I was in this arena, I guess I was like in a big hippie community, and a lot of those people were personal trainers. And because it's like the health and wellness community and then the hippie community are kind of together in one. And so, when you're eating really clean and you're doing all that kind of stuff, you have, the extremes attached to that. And I had a close friend who was um a very close friend of mine, and she was training kind of to be a personal trainer, but she was really into fitness and she was trying to get below 10% body fat and was, had a six pack. And I am not like that. I do not have that type of body, and I have never wanted to have that type of body. And her and I used to have this argument all the time. And I used to be like, it's not biologically natural to be like that. You're trying to be like a man. And I'm not, these women can do this too. And I was like, you're not going to be able to have kids. You're going to ruin your cycle, all this kind of stuff. So, but there wasn't anyone like you online that could kind of back up what I had of like this intuition, because there was no one talking about what you are talking about now. And what a lot of us like intrinsically knew was right for the body, rightful for the feminine to work out in ways that felt right for us. I didn't want to push through my period and go to work, let alone, do a workout and things like that. Like sometimes I have energy during my period, but sometimes I just need to rest. And that's kind of was like, you got to work out this, you got to do that. And yeah, when I came across your content, I was like, yeah, okay, she gets it. This is so great. This is so like what I have been looking for such a long time. So yeah, I really appreciate like the way that you communicate that in such a like strong yet very feminine way as well. And you also did a post about the post that I was like, okay, I got to have Kayla on, because you did this post about being a pick me and how rightful it is for women to be a pick me. Can you explain kind of like what came of that, or like what inspired that for you?
Totally. I've been called a pick me so many times over the years, and it's just always kind of cracked me up because I mean, if anybody has heard that term before, it kind of can come out of left field. It's like, wait, what do you even mean by I don't even understand what that means. It's one of those slang terms. It's gotten a lot of traction in like I would say the last 5 or 6 years on the interwebs with the red pill manosphere community and as well as the feminist community, which um I would say like modern day feminist community, which is to me is like the other side of the coin to the manosphere.
Yes.
Um, two wings, same bird. So it all is like quite ironically, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying, but probably why you had me on. Quite ironically, is such a misogynistic statement. Like it's just is such a telling statement of ignorance to your own biology and the truth of who you are as a woman. And men who say that too just crack me up. So I made that little rant post is a little Instagram reel and I put it on TikTok too and it went like semi-viral, but got a lot of comments and a lot of DMs, which I find interesting. I don't know if you've experienced this, but there's a lot of people that would prefer to argue with me angrily in private. They don't want to be on public, like they don't want to comment publicly, which is so funny to me. Like, okay, so you just don't want to get embarrassed publicly.
100%. Don't risk that vulnerability of being shamed online because you're wrong.
So yeah, I got a lot of private and a little bit of public hate for that one. And it's just I was just pointing out like, and again, clickbaity. I'm fully aware of that. You gotta have a little bit of marketing tact when it comes to the social online spaces. Very few people are going to stick around for very long. So, yeah, a little bit of clickbait, but I think I got my point across is it's just biologically women, females, the feminine, dominant feminine energy, there's a there's a proper order to things. And I realize that the Western culture is very confused on a lot of this lately. The West has no idea what a woman is all of a sudden. We're trying to redefine terms that have been definitive for eons. And we're like rewriting history to make the current narrative feel better to our psychological traumas. Um, and all of this is a pendulum swing. So it's not about making it wrong. It's just about having the clarity to step back and observe and be able to call it for what it is and continue to stand in the truth despite the waves of the pendulum swinging, because the pendulum always swings
Mm.
back and forth. This is the truth of history. And once you understand history, you can recognize the pattern of the pendulum, and that will reveal to you more about the truth. What I always go back to as one of my standards of truth is biological, the
Me
biological.
too. Me too.
And so the pick me post was about taking that strange backhanded um, diss from the feminist and red pill manosphere communities and turning it into a compliment. Actually, what you're saying is I am more biologically feminine than you are. And that
100%.
it doesn't make me better than you. It just makes me more biologically feminine. And that's where people get tripped up when we start talking about, GNM and that sort of lens of the world and
Mm.
um, biological truth, and while still allowing for nuance and empathy and love, it's like there's just so little, there's the screaming of tolerance, yet simultaneously so little tolerance
Yeah.
is not, the irony is not lost on me. So yeah, I just like wanted to open that conversation, and I was just tired of having this this blame game of every girl that dresses modestly to the gym is a pick. Every girl that dresses scantily at the gym is a pick me. You
Mm.
can't do anything right. If you work out because you want to be beautiful and optimize your aesthetic appearance and you value beauty in this world, you're a pick me because
Mm.
you must be. If you are married and you take pride in taking care of your home and maybe you want to have children instead of climb a corporate ladder, oh my gosh, you're a pick me. Well, yeah, I'm married. He picked me. I also picked him. You know what I mean? So yeah, it was just a conversation starter. I had a lot of really cool conversations privately because public, which is funny to me. But yeah, it's just one of those angles that I like to take and different questions in order for us to get different answers.
Yeah. And it's the same, that whole pick me, it goes along with that whole you don't want to be man centric. Yet everything they do is centered around not being like a man, yet being exactly like a man. It's like I cannot think of anybody more man centric than like a non-man centric person. They tend to just like focus on like being the same as men and not being a woman. Whereas I feel like people on, I don't know, our side of the fence, not that there's really sides, but people with, I guess, our viewpoint actually are more female centric, are more woman centric, where we're trying to figure out the best way that we could biologically be a woman and the best way that we could biologically be woman as mature, not girl as immature, and the ways in which we can honor that with ourselves versus fighting against and trying to compete with something that is not us, that is other. That seems way more man centric and centering men than what you accuse me of doing when I honor men and I cherish men and I admire men and I respect them and I love them and I want them to be a part of my life and I acknowledge that they're a part of my life. That somehow is man centric. Yet what they're doing is not. It's this language, that pick me, um, that yeah, it's a derogatory term now. It's become like this real diss, like you're a pick me. I love when you're just like, yeah, I and he picked me. Like I don't get your point here. There's no insult here. I should want to be picked and I was picked. So what's the problem? There's no problem. Like it's only if you don't want to be picked by somebody, if you think that you can somehow do life by yourself alone, I mean, good luck. Like that's my shtick as well. Like I'm doing the hyper independence recovery stuff. I was there. I was that woman. I was like, I don't need no man. And then I was very, very wrong. I was very wrong. And I had to eat some humble pie for several years. And I had to admit, no one can get through this life by yourself. We need people. We need to be picked. We need to be likable. We need people around us. We need community regardless if that's men and women, but it should be men and women.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think I at least alluded to that towards the end of that post where it was like, regardless of what you think of the pick me's or my perspective of what pick me means, like reclaiming the identity, every single one of us is a pick me because whether you want a man to propose to you in marriage or have a family with you, or you want the tribe, because we are all village oriented, tribal minded, that is our genetic makeup. Like you're not going to reprogram your primal brain to not operate that way at a subconscious level. So good luck. You are, by calling me a pick me and thinking that you're accomplishing something and dissing me by doing that, you are fitting into the tribe of anti pick me's. So you want to be picked by that anti pick me tribe. It just,
100%.
it just is so interesting to me.
Yeah, I love that you did that. And it's easy once you've kind of stepped outside of what we've been told is the norm as well. And I guess for you, you've already been outside of the norm and you've already been like fighting for biological women for so long. It seems so obvious to us, but I can imagine for so many people that was like a bit of a whoa moment. Like even how did you even get into like doing the biological stuff with like exercise and everything? How did that come across your part? Like for me it was just really intuitive, and because I saw the results of what was happening in the fitness world with the women that were in it, and I was repelled by that, but I had nothing to kind of back that up, or knew anyone else that was talking about it. How did that even come across your path?
Yeah, it didn't land in my lap at all. I it was layers and years of remembering is what it was. It was layers and years of remembering. And so long story short, I was a runway model for years. When I was finishing high school and starting college, I was traveling a lot as a forward runway model. And I was really, really successful on the West Coast. And then I moved to New York City and I lived there full time for about a year. When I graduated high school, I was 17 when I moved to New York. I graduated early so that I could move. And that was my like throwing the fog into a sorry throwing the frog into a pot of boiling water. Like that was my frying pan year. And I very quickly realized, number one, West Coast market and East Coast market of the United States fashion matrix, very different experiences. Then you go over into Milan, Europe, Japan, all that, and it's another very different experience. But New York, wonderful experiences as well as extremely challenging, extremely refining, terrifying experiences for me as a young woman trying to navigate a career and losing myself in the process. So that industry is what I now refer to as the mirror image or the flip side of the coin to the hyper masculine fitness hustle matrix. It is the hyper feminine or toxic feminine fashion matrix. And it goes the beauty industry and plastic surgery industry and all of the billions of dollars of marketing and psychological warfare that goes into it. There's very little difference between that side of the coin and the fitness industry, dieting industry side of the coin. Two wings of the same bird, just they present themselves differently. So I came out of that experience. I retired um, just before I turned 19, and I hadn't had my period in over a year. I was 115 pounds. I am 6 feet tall. And my doctor was like, my mom took me to the doctor. One of my friends actually flew me home because I was so ill and flew me home from New York. So I was back in California. I went to the doctor with my mom, and the doctor was like, I'm really glad you came in because I need to talk to you. Like, this is not okay. Like, we need to get you squared away. You need to get healthy. Not having your period in over a year at your age, you're extremely underweight, you're malnourished, you're I was really struggling with like migraines and not being able to get out of bed. My body was just freaking out and shutting down. And she was like, "You're not going to be able to have children if you continue like this." Point blank. You're going to sacrifice your fertility at the minimum. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." That was like the wake up call that I needed because I was not ready to stay at almost 19 years old, no man in sight, right? Like I was not in a relationship, I was not married. I just was not ready to say, "Oh, I'm not going to have kids. I'm going to chase Victoria's Secret," because that's what my agency was pushing me for. And that was just man's rejection is God's protection, like that was just my wake up call. And I exited, I retired the fashion industry. I moved home completely from New York. And my first nutrition and fitness training certification was done then. I was researching, like, okay, I'm obviously not healthy. My relationship with my food and my body are very distorted. What do I need to do differently? Like, what is the right way to do this? Because I don't want to get quote unquote fat. I want to be beautiful and like optimize my health and my physique, but I actually don't have a freaking clue how. So I was going back to school to be a dentist and eventually an oral surgeon. And I simultaneously was just looking through tons of different books and getting my first certification just for me. I had zero intention of being a fitness trainer. And through the course of the next year, the manager at the gym that I was working out at approached me and commented and said, "Hey, your transformation has been really amazing to witness, and you seem to know what you're doing. Have you ever thought about getting certified and becoming a trainer?" And I was like, "Well, actually, I am certified, but I just did it for me." But I was in school and I was like, "Sure, why not get a part-time job?" It was like across the street from school, can make a little money. And I legit fell so hard in love with training women specifically. I did have amazing male clients as well, a lot of older population, special needs populations that just broke my heart in the best way. And I just loved serving all of them. Um, and I very quickly became the head trainer at that. It was a really large gym in my hometown. And so take that through, I'll say, spare you the details on my marriage, my divorce, and my entry into the feminist matrix because I very quickly became bitter at masculinity through my divorce and first marriage, unfortunately. and was even really angry at God during that period of my life in my mid 20s. And so I fell really hard into the hyper masculine, like buff arms of the bodybuilding industry, which is a niche inside of the fitness matrix. It's not as mainstream, but a lot of what you see on social media and on TV shows and stuff like that, I mean, it's completely inextricably linked to, the whole matrix. But it's just hardcore, like the bodybuilding industry, it's a whole new level of distortion in the masculine pendulum swing compared to the fashion industry that I had come from. So it's like I broke free from one matrix and I landed, just plopped myself, my pretty little butt straight into the other end of the deep end. And I started competing. This was when I really fell hard into NPC bodybuilding shows. I was a multinational level champion. Um, Again, had some great experiences, just like with the fashion industry, but it was a lot. Like again, it was just I lost myself again in the other extreme, and it was all about how hard can I push myself? How can I get this line in my abdominal wall? How can I get this muscle to show more, build, push, work harder, eat less, or eat less of certain things? You can rest when you're dead, team no days off, all the things.
Yeah, and both industries are very like your worth is just based on how you look, like not
So
who you are.
all external validation.
Yeah.
My betrayal trauma from my marriage, my first marriage, that just played into the hands of the bodybuilding industry beautifully because I'm literally putting myself on stage nearly naked in a bikini, seeking validation from judges on my physique, right? Just so ironic to look back on, but with so much love for that girl that I was. Um, and so I did that for a few years, and it was 2016 when I kind of started remembering, like, I've been on hormonal birth control basically since I got my period back from recovering from fashion. Um, and so I actually haven't really known my natural cycle for the entirety of my young adult life throughout my 20s. And that kind of broke my heart because I was realizing like this was around the time when like cycle syncing was starting to become more of a mainstream conversation. Elisa Vitti was kind of like the main spearheading at that time. People like Dr. Stacy Sims and her research was starting to become more mainstream in the conversation. But I say mainstream so carefully because it was still very, very fringe, right? Very fringe, especially in the fitness community. And so I was getting introduced to these sorts of things, and I was just like, I like a lot of it, but there was still a part of me that really, really knew, even though I had experienced the pendulum swing of the hyper masculine, distorted relationship with structure of training and nutrition, I still knew that the structure and the discipline, like there was something there that was so valuable, and you can't just throw out the baby with the bathwater. So I was like, how can I take some of what I know from the fitness industry that is good and it's research based and it's basically inarguable of what works, but make it more adaptable and more approachable for women, not to the point that it requires you like, oh, you're only allowed to lift 2 pound pink dumbbells. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, let's let's not, spiritually bypass ourselves into like that's all we can do. So I was looking through things and just again trial and error for a few years there. I finally wrestled through getting to piece together the dots that were missing of applying progressive overload in strength training and hypertrophy science to the menstrual cycle specifically, but also for the non-menstruating women, the lunar cycle and the energetics that are available to us there, and that beautiful framework that we have available to us in that mirror. Um, And so yeah, that was kind of how I layered all that together. Was I went through a lot of personal trial and error and experience that I wouldn't necessarily wish on anyone, but it's part of my story and part of what has built Flex Your Feminine as a brand and a ministry, and a methodology that has been life-changing, not only for me, but for the women that I have the privilege of serving and midwifing their results for. And so it really is. It's not the mainstream cycle thinking. It's not the mainstream fitness community at all. It's like its own niche that I had to create because women deserved and need something different.
Mm. So, what had to change in the way that you were thinking about yourself and your body and fitness in general for you to fully accept and kind of like bloom into that? Like, what was the mindset that needed the structure that needed to break down and be reborn?
Yeah, kind of like what you mentioned around your independent era, because that was my very similar era in my mid 20s when I was into bodybuilding post divorce, is what I call my feminist, like hyper independent. I don't need no man. I will just be the man that I need myself, muscles included, right? And at 6 feet tall, that made me like quite the physical force to be reckoned with, which then proceeded to push away the type of man that I was attracted to, ironically, just on a visual, like energetic component. So it started to turn around for me, when I realized that I hadn't been experiencing my natural cycle and I started to feel very disconnected from my femininity. I was looking around me and I can't point to like one specific experience that, shattered where I was and woke me up necessarily, but it was just like a slow drip of a lot of things that started getting my attention. And part of what it was realizing that I hadn't allowed myself to experience my own cycle for the majority of my adult life. And so my first step was getting myself off the pill so that I could start to reclaim my biological femininity at a cyclical level. Once I did that, the floodgates opened and the slow drip more of a waterfall because I wasn't muting the wisdom of my womb anymore, and God could really speak to me through that cycle. So then he really started giving me a lot of direction spiritually and vision in dreams. I get a lot of visions and dreams that I am very blessed to try to decipher, and showed me the feminine and the masculine. Like it sounds so simple, but he took me back to the story of Adam and Eve and how Adam, hyper masculine, independent, wasn't good for him to be alone. So why, Kayla, this was the question, why, Kayla, would it be good for you to do it all alone? You weren't even designed as a man. Adam
Mm.
was. So that question, which is why I now say I just try to ask better questions and help midwife your answers for women. That question was a pivot point from one of my dreams, and that kind of helped spur me into more research, more exercising of discernment in how I was navigating my own cycle and starting to see more conversations and have more conversations on the fringe about what would it look like to do this with our cycle, to work out with our cycle, but use progressive overload training principles, um, to help women really stretch their capacity, build up their resilience physically and mentally and somatically and their nervous systems, like all that stuff. And so it was one step at a time after that. And I just slowly started to piece together like, okay, proper programming just makes sense to me. The masculine structure makes sense to me to contain the feminine flow, right? The chaos that can be the feminine archetypes. Um, that's just all started to fall together. And I was like, yeah, this can really, really work. So the monthly cycle is, for the women, is the perfect framework and blueprint to use as an overlay for building proper training protocols. And that's just not something that has ever been done in the fitness matrix. The fitness industry, mainstream, the research and all of it does a great job of discussing the science. A lot of it, I lovingly call bro science because it is all the research is done on men. There's very little research done on women because guess what? Our hormones complicate things. Go figure. Um, but that's slowly changing, and that's so encouraging to teach in the last 5 years. That's really, really started to pick up. So we're seeing a lot of progress being made in the research and development in the scientific community for women in the medical field as well as exercise science. So um, awesome to see, but there were a few people on that fringe from the beginning, like Dr. Stacy Sims, and even today she's getting a lot of hate because it's still considered woo-woo and fringe, right? But she's a big inspiration of mine when it comes to this. She's very focused on like endurance athletes, and I'm more focused on making sure that women build the kind of lean muscle mass that they really need in order to not only have the bodies that they want aesthetically and optimize their beauty, but muscle is an endocrine organ and you need it for your hormone health. You need it for your metabolic sovereignty. You need it for bone density. You need resistance training for that. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it totally does. I mean, it's such a similar journey in so many different ways to like my journey as well. Yeah, it's so fascinating because I was on the pill for 10 years from when I was 15 to 25. And for me, like I had zero libido, zero interest in anybody. I was very concerned about why there was no attractive people around. I was like, how is anybody getting in relationships? Like everyone is very, I'm not interested. Like they're all yuck to me. But I didn't know that that's what was happening to my body. I didn't know that my hormones had been hijacked until I got off the pill and I was like, whoa, everyone's very good looking. Okay, I get it now, but that journey of like getting to know yourself again and getting to know your cycle and getting to know, and then to master that, to master those floods of hormones. And like, do I have to act on this? Do I not have to act on it? What is this? Getting to that education level to understand the female body, it takes time. It takes time. But I think once you get there, I find it fascinating when people get backlash. Now you were saying that doctor got backlash. It's biology. How can you backlash against biology? It's like you can test for it. It's there. We've been doing it for hundreds of thousands of years. Like this is who we are. And you cannot change that. You might have some great ideas. And this is kind of what I always say to people who are more, say, progressive in their mindset. I'm like, look, it's not that I disagree with your idea, right? That's a great idea, very egalitarian. Love that. Doesn't work with our biology. And you're expecting your psychology of like a modern thinking philosophical mind that has progressed and changed very quickly. You're expecting your thousands of year old biology, which evolutionarily, if you believe in evolution, I don't know, but either way, that kind of change would, even in that very scientific mindset, that kind of change would take millennia to catch up
right.
to biologically. So, whilst that's a great idea, right now you're running against nature and you will pay the price on this planet for running against nature. now or in the future. I see so many women with chronic illnesses. It's like we have an autoimmune mess out there. I'm one of those women in recovery from that. I was able to heal myself of autoimmune thyroiditis. But, I've
Amazing.
still got some stuff going on, like histamine levels, because my system is still on alert. Right. So I'm alert to things. So I need to still regulate my nervous system. I just started last night a somatic process. It's a 30-day reset for me, just doing the hip rocking so I can get back into exercising. Because at the moment, if I exercise, I injure myself, I get pain because my body is inflamed and it goes, too much stress, And if I was to go to a gym, they'd be like, push through it, just keep pushing through it. For so long, my mum was a champion gymnast before I was born. And so when my sister and I were growing up, we were always like pushed to be very athletic, doing lots of gymnastics, doing acrobatics and dancing and all that kind of stuff, which is great. And we loved it. And I did all that kind of stuff. I did so many different martial arts or whatever. And I just became very, very strong. And I was like one of the strongest women that I knew. And half the time I was stronger than most of the men that I knew, which was confronting. But when you go from that and you're pushed into that and you're kind of like static in that, and that's what I find is the issue, is like that staticness, then you burn out. And now I have to sit on the other side of that, of being kind of weak, kind of broken, and I have to now rebuild and to find that balance and to find that flow. And I think you're totally right. It's like getting to know yourself in that cycle and getting to know how it is biologically is really the only answer that makes sense. Because trust me, I've tried to outsmart it in every other way possible to try and not do that, because that's like the hard way. I've tried to like do a cheat sheet, find some Easter eggs. They don't exist. You can't cheat sheet biology. You just have to go into it.
You have to trust it. That's what I always say. And before I was doing this work, um, when I got started in the fitness industry, I was a mainstream trainer. I mean, I had some kind of fringe ideas about biomechanics and things like that. I would do weird exercises and a lot of mobility compared to some of the other bodybuilder trainers because I had a background in martial arts and dancing. So I understood the body a little bit differently than some of the bros, right? No different than like a football player is going to train his clients differently because he has experience that I don't as a football player. You know what I mean? So there's a place for everything. Um, there's a time for everything, and scripture even says this. There's a time for mourning and there's a time for, for laughter and the seasons of the earth, spring, summer, fall, winter even tells us this. There's a time for harvest and there's a time for planting, right? There's a time for hibernating and there's a time for preparation. The women's menstrual cycle monthly gives us these phases on repeat for the length of our years in fertility. And when women are no longer hormonally cycling for any myriad of reasons, I have so many clients who have incredible results and experiences from implementing the lunar methodology of my philosophy as well. And that's because it provides you the framework to slow down appropriately, give yourself space and grace, integrate, and then to embody and create momentum. That ritual of those cycles being gone through consistently is the brand of consistency that the feminine has not been allowed to adopt in the masculine culture of corporate consumerist America and other Western countries. I mean, pretty much the whole world at this point is on a similar trajectory, right? So when we look at it like that, again, the layers of the biology, the heavens, the earth, the psycho, um,
I think
it's
it's
so beautiful. The puzzle pieces, they just fit. They just fit. And I'm never I am never left, I am never left uh, unimpressed by the
Mm.
way line of biology and the supporting systems of natural law work together.
Mm. I think it's always it's I think it's so interesting because a lot of times when people have been in that hyper masculinized mindset and world, and they've been pushing their bodies to perform like men, they think that the opposite and to be feminine is to be completely collapsed. Whereas I love that you have, and this is something that I fight for as well, is like women can have structure. Women can have consistency. Women can have drive. Women can have ambition. It's just like ambition and drive and structure, that's all expressed differently for women. It's not that it doesn't exist, it just doesn't look the same. So to say, like, oh, you shouldn't do that because you're a woman, which I hear quite often, like, oh, that's not feminine, or how do I do this without becoming masculine? I'm like, you can't become masculine. You're a woman, right? You're going to stay a woman no matter what. All right. But you have to figure out what's the most feminine biologically way of doing this, because this is a human quality, right? But we've just got to figure out how we can, like keeping fit even is like, that's not a man's thing. Like that's both of our things that we both need biologically, but we just need it in different ways. And I find it so disempowering when we like to criticize, quote unquote, again, our side, but like, to criticize the whole femininity, masculinity, polarity mindset that is online. I find it so disempowering when they shift away from anything masculine and then they say, well, you can't engage in any of that anymore because it's not feminine. And they keep women suppressed and they keep women down in that way. Whereas the people that I follow and the people that I really connect with are the women who are feeling totally inspired, like driven from that inspiration place inside of them to express in the ways that make them feel good and that is biologically appropriate. I'm like, that's a woman engaging the right hormones right there. Like you can tell. And you can tell when a woman is like suppressing parts of herself, trying to make herself seem like meek or more amenable or more likable rather than expressing the best parts of herself. I think that's
Yeah.
like so important to represent.
It
So
is. That's a really beautiful way of putting it. Really beautiful way of putting it. And I would even just tack on to that and say that part of what I've learned in coming back into rhythm and trusting my cycle and my biology is that the copy paste solar rhythm that the masculine runs on every day, um, it's not that we're exempt from that because obviously we live in the same world. The sun rises, the sun sets. We have the circadian layer,
mm,
but we also have the layer of our infradian rhythm. And so, with that infradian rhythm, we have this beautiful opportunity that men don't get the luxury of, where, for lack of better words, we get to be different people at different times of the month.
yeah.
And what I mean by that is not some bipolar disorder necessarily. What I mean, what I mean by that is, because that's a very serious thing, I'm not trying to make light of it. But what I mean by that is that there are different, you alluded to this, like different strengths, different parts of our personalities that come forward from our psyche for a purpose
Yeah.
to accomplish certain things, to move us forward, or to allow us to rest in order to recover, which will then propel us forward even better. That flywheel is going to propel us forward even better, that men don't get
Yeah.
in the same way. So it's not about, this is where I really break off with the mainstream feminist jargon. I don't care about being equal to men because I am not equal to a man. I don't want to be equal to men. I don't want to do what men do. I don't want to go to war. I don't want to, my husband is a police officer. I do not want to do his job. And I do not legitimately understand the women who try to. I don't. Um, Again, biologically feminine, that's just not a thing. That doesn't make any sense to me. But like, likewise, my husband would go crazy doing my job.
Yep.
And he was a trainer
Yep.
before, but doing it in the way that I do it, he's just like, wow, that is so freaking cool. What? Like, really? Your body does that? Like, the masculine is even fascinated with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
In all of it, and all of their distortions. It always boils down to being fascinated with the feminine. Um, and almost more so than we are fascinated with ourselves.
100%. Yeah.
And that makes me sad. So yeah, I would just wrap that up by saying like there's this opportunity here for each woman with your cycle.
Mm.
Each woman's experience of her cycle is a little bit different. There's no such thing as a cookie cutter cycle.
Mm.
Um,
So when I see pregnant women doing ice baths,
oh my God, it breaks my heart.
oh my, I just think about the fetus. That's all I can. I'm like, that poor child is just getting stress signals. What are you doing? What are you doing? And they're like, I'm so tough. And usually it's like, my husband is like super tough man, right? He's
Oh
like
yeah.
hyper masculine and he wants her to be like him. And so she's
Right.
trying to keep up and she's like doing an ice bath or, the darkness retreats and all that kind of stuff, which I just think this is really not safe. This is just
Yeah.
not safe signals for women. And that is like number one basic biology for women is like safety. And
Yeah.
if you just continue to send your body signals of not being safe, then you're going to reap what you sow biologically. And I'm not saying you deserve it. What I'm saying is these are choices that you make, and there are consequences to every choice that you make.
Exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
the same as when, I wrote a book after I had my son called Birthing Outside the System. And it was basically from pre pregnancy to postpartum. If you wanted to make the choice not to go into the system, here are all of your options. And here are all of what happens in the system, and here are all of what may happen outside of the system. Now, here's your informed choice. Make your choices.
Yeah.
And part of that was me explaining in pregnancy women who choose to watch scary movies or listen to music that arouses their nervous system, they are making choices that will affect their fetus's nervous system and their disposition, their personality of the child
Yeah.
when they come out. And Japan actually had like this really great understanding of this, so that they used to have, not so much anymore, but they used to have this idea that every day a woman had to use all of her five senses. So they would encourage her to go for walks outside in nature. And so she would look at beautiful things, she would smell beautiful things, she would hear beautiful things, and she would see beautiful things, and she would touch beautiful things. So, like,
Yeah.
that was just like such an inspiration. It was like, you must stay calm, you must stay like really connected and
Yeah.
understand that all of those things are sending your body signals, and your body is only going to react to those signals that you give it. That's
Yeah.
all you can. That's just, if we come down to, we are just like machines in that way. We are like, okay, what's the data input? And this is the data output for that.
Yeah.
So when I see, those things, I see women doing crazy things while they're pregnant, but it's not just while you're pregnant. People need to realize it's all the time for us women. Like, I used to put myself in such high stress scenarios, thinking if I can tough this out, then I'm like worthy of like proving
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
and I'm
Oh
just
yeah.
as good as men, and I should get the respect of men. I was very distorted in understanding what I was trying to achieve in my relationship with men. I really thought that I wanted their respect, not their love and adoration. And I didn't understand about cherish and nourish and honoring, didn't understand any of that. I thought,
Mhm.
I see men, they respect other men who meet them at that level. So that's how I'm going to get that kind of relationship with men where it's equal.
Right. Right.
So yeah, I did that all the time. and I stressed my body out and I paid the price for it. And I had to go on a massive journey of like regulating the nervous system. I don't watch certain shows anymore. If someone goes, you should watch this, I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to watch that. I have no interest in that anymore. That
Yeah.
repels me now. I'm like, that sounds scary. Not interested. Not
Sure.
even like, oh, it's not scary. It's suspenseful or it's a thriller or psychological thrillers. All the women who listen to like the murder podcasts.
Yes.
What
Oh,
is
I
that?
I know. I know. It's a trauma response is what it is.
And they like go to sleep while it's playing and stuff. I'm like, this is all the wrong signals. What are you doing?
Red flag.
100%. And I just like, I feel it viscerally in my body because I was there. I was that woman. I remember when I would turn on the internet and some war had broken out or something terrific was happening. And then you'd get flooded with these images. I was like, I actually don't need to see that. And
Yeah.
I messaged a masculine account who was like sharing for men and women. It wasn't just for men. And I was like,
Okay.
you actually say that you share stuff for men and women, yet you post all these really graphic things. Please be aware that you're not protecting us. You're showing things that are jacking our nervous system as
Yeah.
women, especially as mothers as well, especially if you're showing images of like, mutilated children or something horrific like that.
Yeah.
That's not protective masculine. This is
No.
not, you need to be aware that this is what's happening. If your account was just for men and I'm on here, then that's my choice. And I'm absolutely do your thing and I'm invading your space. And how dare I even ask you to do what you need to do. But you say you're for both, just be aware that that's the impact you're having. Because I just couldn't even open my phone without,
Yeah.
getting jacked up on my cortisol going through the roof. I had my
Yeah.
cortisol tested and they were like, it's off the chart. We can't even chart it. It's
Oh,
gone at
exactly.
first thing in the morning. I was like, okay, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's so underrated, something like the music we listen to, the shows, the movies we watch, the social media that we doom scroll and
Mm,
dissociate with, right? The amount of dopamine hijacking, sorry, excuse me. Um, we don't, as a society, different cultures, we've lost our way. We've lost connection with the biology, right? Scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. And there is no lack of people with lack of knowledge of their own biology and the biological truth and the natural consequences to your ignorance. And it's not about you being stupid, it's that we've all been brainwashed and
yes.
gaslit and um, have been bypassing the biological truth for generations. And we've had this psychological warfare put on us for generations on purpose. So it's not that you chose this for yourself, but once you know better, you do better. And when things start to click for you, I hate to break it to you, but when things start to click for you and then you continue to put your head in the sand and just live life status quo and you don't think that natural law is going to apply to you, that makes it worse.
Burnout's coming.
The karmic load is not a joke. Like once you are aware, you need to trust that and start to really take responsibility. And this is something that I'm really big on with my girls. Um, we are not the mainstream soft girl psyop cycle syncing community.
Yes.
It's not what we do. I am not the coach that's going to tell you, oh, you don't feel like it today. Don't worry about it. I'm also not going to make you do something,
Mm.
but I'm going to ask you questions so that we can get to the root of what you're feeling so that you can start to learn to discern. Because you mentioned something earlier about learning to discern your cycle and, well, what do I do with all this now? Like, what do I do with these hormones now that I'm feeling all of this?
Mm.
That is a huge portal for women, especially if you're coming off of birth control or you're coming out of pregnancy. There's huge postpartum hormone surges there, back into regulating your cycle. There's so many different portals for women. in transformational arcs throughout our lifetime. Premenses, your first menarche as a child, as a young girl, going through menopause, right? Like all of these things are different transformational arcs that are available to us. Pregnancy is its own arc. And so, yeah, there has to be, and there isn't really any sort of roadmap for how to decipher and discern and strengthen that discernment muscle and those wisdom architecture in our culture, because we're told to take the pill and numb everything out so that we can perform copy paste every day on the solar calendar just like men do.
Yeah.
That is the Industrial Revolution personified. Like, but that is not the design of women biologically. It's also not really that great for men either, but it's just a little bit easier for them to fit into that mold, right? For us, it's round peg, square hole. So, so yeah, it's like there's so much opportunity here with each phase of your cycle, each phase of your life, to begin to stretch your awareness and your knowledge and your discernment. And if you choose not to, that is still your choice. You have free will, but it does not make you exempt from the karmic load, and it does not make you exempt from the natural law consequences, positive and negative. It goes both ways. That is just the reality of the world we live in, the way that it's designed. So, I just try to encourage the women that I work with, like, we always go into what is your body teaching us here? It's not that you don't feel like doing this. There's something about this that doesn't feel safe right now to your body. So
Mm.
what is that teaching you? It's not the squats. I mean, yeah, my girls squat. Yeah, I write programs, pretty brilliant programs, if I do say so myself. That's just the structure. You know what I mean? And I love it. I nerd out on it. It's great. But what I really am passionate about is that next layer that is not addressed in the fitness community at all for women. We have to go into that next layer because we are multidimensional beings. We are not copy paste mini men.
Mm.
So the better questions will get you better answers. And then you make your informed decisions. And I'm not that coach that's going to be like, oh, well, you didn't do it the way that I would do it. So you're fired. No, it's about your adventure. This is your journey, right?
Yeah, the bio individual.
Yep.
Yeah. What do you what's what when you're working with someone, what are the things that come up the most? Do you have like a theme that when people are like, I just don't want to do this today? What do you see as like the theme that plays out for most women?
Different things at different points in a woman's adventure, I call it, or journey,
Mm.
transformation journey. So when someone is first getting started, the biggest thing is going to be the breaking the hold that the matrix has on them at a nervous system level, because they will feel at certain points of the programming, they will feel like they're not doing enough, and they will go into like fight mode.
Mm.
Like, I don't like this anymore. This is crap. I need to be doing X, Y, and Z. I want to add on another program. I need to do more.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel safe. And it's actually the safest thing for them, but because it doesn't feel familiar to their reticular activating system, they get freaked out at a
Yeah.
nervous system level. So working with them through that in the beginning is the biggest thing. Then once they kind of get established, they're 3 months in, 6 months in, different things start appearing. And again, every woman, bio individuals, but patterns. I've been doing this long enough. I can recognize patterns, right? Um, the different things that start showing up at that point is almost the pendulum swing of suddenly I feel like I've earned my ability
Yeah.
to coast.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the soft girl psyop starts trying to get your attention, and
Yeah.
there's a play on ego there. So then the questions are different, right? Better questions, better answers. The questions are different, and it's my coaching style changes with the woman based off of her phase.
Mm.
Um, in the beginning, when they're trying to break out of the hustle matrix, I'm going to be coaching them to extend themselves more grace and trust the process and be patient,
Yep.
slow down, be present with your body. Once they get, or if they get, not everybody, but if they get to the point where the soft girl psyops tries to sneak in and derail them, then my coaching style goes more into, okay, why would you change what's working that's gotten you the results that you love? What's going on? What are you avoiding? This is an
Mm.
avoidant attachment response. We're getting too close to the leading edge of something, some breakthrough, some success that you're afraid of. It's not a fear of failure at that point, like it is when you're programmed and plugged into the hustle. It's a fear of success, and it's a
Mm.
success that you've never experienced before. So the soft girl psyop is going to come in and try to derail you and tell you that you can just sit back and relax and eat bonbons all day and maintain these results. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
You have to trust the process. You have to trust the structure. Obedience is a love language.
Mm.
That is a whole nother, that is a whole nother layer to the psyche that a lot of women also have to deal with, is a pattern of rebellion against obedience to natural law, rebellion against obedience to their own biology, rebellion against obedience to spiritual authority, men, whatever it is, right?
Absolutely. I love that. And I was just thinking as you were saying that, it's so like the mother archetype that comes out. And a lot of us didn't have um great mother structures that kind of showed us the right way to mother, in which you nurture, but you also push.
Yep.
You can't
Yep.
be too gentle and forgiving, and you also can't be too hard, because both of those things don't work. And when we become adults, I think women forget that we almost need to become our own mothers. We need to have we need to mother ourselves and have that archetype come out and push us, or be gentle with us, or respond in that way. And we're looking outside of us for something to do that, and all we've got is like the hustle culture or the soft girl
Yeah.
culture. You've got people
Yeah.
going, don't worry about it, babe, just do whatever. And body positivity, you can just get fat, it's fine, we'll just be fat and sassy together.
Because the tribe, that's what the
Yeah,
tribe is. So
100%. So that's what
water
we
seeks its
find on
own
the
level.
outside. Or you have someone who's like, no, you must get up at 5 and do like, morning pages, and then you have to do an ice bath, and then you have to do this,
Yeah.
and then that's the way to optimize. And so we forget like this aspect of womanhood, which is the mother who is wise, and who is intuitive and who is connected. So she's
Yeah.
present, she's there, and she's like, I love you. And I know that right now you're being really hard on yourself, and you need to like, I need to bring more nourishment. I need to bring more gentleness. Or she's like, I love you, but
Yeah.
right now you are absolutely undercutting yourself out of what I know will be your greatest moment. And I'm here, I'm going to push you. You're not going to like it. But I know that when you get to the other side of that, you're going to be so proud of yourself that it will be such a defining moment in your psyche and in your life. And I'm here for that. I'm going to facilitate that for you, because that's my job as a mom. I'm going to keep you
100%.
safe. I'm going to keep you loved. But she's there for the whole growth arc of your entire psyche. So I love that you do that. Like already just like mothering so many people. It's wonderful, because you're showing them in ways in which they need to mother themselves. And I think I think it's just awesome.
Yeah. And I use the archetypes in my work too and pair them with the phases of the menstrual cycle. So you've got the maiden, the mother, the queen, and the prophetess are the archetypes that I use
Mm.
for follicular phase, ovulation phase, luteal phase, and menses.
Mm.
So kind of echoing back to what we talked about a little bit ago, where each phase of your cycle gives you an opportunity to bring a certain archetype forward from you, none of them are any less you than the other, but they each get their time to shine in the spotlight on the stage at different points of your cycle. So it's no different than Mother Nature
Mm,
sharing her beauty with us in every season. There's something beautiful about winter that's completely different than the beauty of summer.
yeah.
Um, but it's still beauty and it needs to be expressed and it needs to be exercised. It needs to be stewarded
Mm,
wisely and responsibly. And so, yeah, there's a 4-part mini series that I did. Anybody can DM me for the link if you're interested in purchasing it, where I talk about each one of those archetypes and kind of draw it back to what we're doing with fitness and all of that. So
it's
just
so
again,
true. I'm totally,
layering.
yeah, I'm totally more intuitive on my cycle. Like I just get all of these messages on my cycle that when I'm supposed to be more creative and like my follicular and ovulation phase, and that's kind of it's we have a distortion even in that in being told about our cycle and what is true. And for me, that's been the last 2 years. I've been like really honing in on what the gifts are in each phase of my cycle. And for me, I was like, oh, I've always been told that you're super creative, around this time. And I'm not. Hmm. Am I wrong? Is something's off here? And for me, I have such intense dreams during my cycle. I have like such strong messages, intuit things that I couldn't do a week later. It's phenomenal, and I love the prophetess. I love that. I've never heard of that archetype before, so yeah, that's something that I think is
Yeah,
so
the
good.
veil is thinnest
Yeah,
during menses, so that's why I put the prophetess there.
yeah,
And it's so true, like I like using things like the archetypes or like the seasons, to kind of
mm,
draw parallels. I also work with the moon cycles. So, full moon is kind of mirrored to ovulation phase, right? And all these mirrorings are beautiful, but it's not a one size fits all
yeah,
because for some women, their ovulation feels more like winter and their menses feels more tropical.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's not wrong at all. It's beautiful. It's no different than saying, like, oh, well, Christmas time in December is snowing in New York, but it sure isn't where I am at in Southern California
Or here in Australia.
or here in Australia. Exactly. So yeah, it for every person
Mm,
is experiencing time and seasonality a little bit differently depending on your location in the world. It's no different than your internal world and
mm.
the world of the womb.
Do you buy into the stuff that, because I'm gonna be going into my 40s soonish. And all I hear is like, oh, once you're over 40, you will just gain weight and you won't be able to keep it off. And I just think, I don't know if that's true. Like, that didn't happen to my mother. I didn't see it happen to my grandmother either. But I'm curious about that whole narrative and where that's come from. Like, I don't know if it's just laziness that people are being like, oh, well, it's because I'm 40 now. And there's like perimenopause now as well. It's like people are like, oh, from the 35, you're going to go into perimenopause. I'm
Yeah,
like, peri means pre. What are you talking
right.
about? Premenopause? Are we ever just allowed to be fertile, healthy, or are we always anticipating doom and gloom and decline? Like,
Seriously.
what is happening in the psyche of women right now? It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's a curse is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not just this harmless narrative. It's a curse. It's prophecy and
Mm,
self-fulfilling prophecy. So I'm really big on I'm really big on holding the women in my space accountable for the words that they speak because the words that we speak carries prophetic
yeah.
frequency. If you do not want it to happen, do not say it.
Yeah.
Period. So it doesn't mean that I want you to be afraid of speaking. It means that I want you, because I want you to use your voice. It means that I want you to be very intentional and steward the power of your voice wisely because it will birth worlds.
Mhm.
It just will. So dialing that back in, get to address your question. I believe that that's a curse, and it is absolutely not something that you are destined to suffer through unless you prophesy it over yourself and believe it at a psychosomatic level, then your body is going to manifest that. It's a
Mm,
self-fulfilling prophecy and it will manifest the misalignment and the actions or inactions required in order to make that come true
mm,
because you have spoken it into existence.
mm,
So going back to like what you mentioned about how you don't watch certain things and don't listen to certain things, we are being programmed through every single thing through audio, visual, social media. We need to protect our dopamine release and
mm,
what goes through our eyes and ears way harder than we do. People
mm.
do this when they have kids and they start to like, I notice that moms start to kind of wake up to the reality of like, what the heck is going on with all these shows and,
Mm.
you know, the language, you know, like they start policing the language of people around them that they've never had a problem with before, but all
Yeah.
of a sudden they have a kid and they don't want their kid hearing the language that they've always spoken themselves, you know?
Hmm.
And that's all fine, but it's like going back to mothering ourselves.
Do it for
Why aren't
yourself.
why aren't we doing that for ourselves? It's no less true for us than it is for your 4-year-old.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not a proponent of that at all. I am in better shape and honestly hotter at 36 than I was at 25. So I am not worried at all at being 45. There are obviously realities to aging that I'm not going to gaslight myself or anyone else about. But what we've been told about aging and brainwashed to think we need to do to fight aging
Mm,
instead of just living in the different um, seasons of life as we age and embracing it and embodying it, that I don't subscribe to at
mm.
all.
Yeah. I'm similar. I'm similar. I have a real issue with the way that we almost um we discard like the vitality of women when they hit a certain age. I find
Yeah.
that to be really toxic.
Mhm.
And there is this. See, this is the thing, there's always nuance and no one wants to have the long conversations because it's like 15-second Instagram TikTok world, right?
I know.
This is why I do this podcast, is I love having these like nuanced conversations. So like, yes, as we mature, we get older and we go, I'm going to be a little bit more relaxed, I'm going to be a little bit more calm, maybe I stay home a bit more, maybe I am a little bit more protective of my circle, and maybe I don't need to like go out all the time and do all these things. And I think that's a level of maturity that is a necessity. It needs to come through, and you need to feel a lot more settled as you grow old. You're not looking for that external stimulation anymore. You're not looking for external validation. You're just kind of, nurturing and nourishing your home, which I think is biologically normal. But I don't also think that that means the death of the vital woman who is her aliveness in passion, in life, in relationship, in experience, in music and joy, like this haggard old bitter
Yeah.
fat lady who sits at home with her cats, and doesn't like anything or anyone, and complains all the time. And
Right.
like, and if you go out, like it seems like we have only the two archetypes, like the women who still try to act like they're 21 and like go
Yeah.
clubbing, that scene from Bridesmaids where she's like, am I old? There's a
Yep.
pregnant lady and an old lady trying to get into this nightclub. You've either got that, or they're like so sad at home and totally disconnected from life and joy and just like duty and motherhood and bleh.
Right.
And they don't,
Right.
they don't make love with their partners. They don't do anything fun.
Yeah.
And I'm really against that narrative. Like, I
Yeah.
think that it's so damaging to not only the women who are living it, but to the younger generation who are seeing that be their option and play
Yeah.
out as their reality. Like, if I was a young girl and I saw that, which I didn't see, my mum was very vital and still is very vital. My mum exercises every single day. She's way more vital than I am, at in her 60s.
That's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, and she's got Parkinson's as well. So she's like,
Oh,
she has to keep her fitness up, as part
yeah.
of her keeping her health. Yeah, if I was a young girl growing up, I see this is where the G&M stuff comes in because I wouldn't want to grow
Yeah.
up. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to mature. If that's my option, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stay here. And then we
Right.
have this perpetual infantilized childlike woman who never matures because she's never been shown a healthy maturation.
Amen.
So we're
Amen.
creating this problem by not addressing our own issues, our own problems, because we're only giving these black and white responses. We're not having nuanced conversations anymore. And I think it's damaging.
And the culture, it's so damaging. And unfortunately, society and culture at large, I wouldn't say everywhere,
Mm,
but at large in modern day, does not have the architecture in place as a society to usher women or men, boys to men. There's a whole transition that's
yep.
completely, not there anymore. Um, but doesn't have the architecture to usher women into these different phases
Yes.
appropriately. So hence why we don't see
Mm,
very many, if at all, examples like you're saying
yeah.
of aging gracefully and having
Yes.
something to look forward to. The
Yeah.
family unit, like the the mainstream, conservative family unit, right? Nuclear family is so isolated compared to the long history of humanity and how
Yes.
we have always lived in villages with multi-generational households.
Yes.
So you don't even have your own familial bloodline generations above you to witness, let alone culturally
Yes.
like you said, great example of the, two the like dichotomy between the two options of what an older woman looks like, and they're not great options. So
No.
yeah, why would I want to grow up? I don't have anything to look forward to out there or in here in my own family. It's tragic. It's really, really tragic what we have tolerated from society to bring us to the point that we're at now. And
Mm,
I feel like the pendulum is swinging. I don't know that it's going to swing quick enough for you and I to witness the return of the better balance in
mm.
some of these things that we're talking about. But maybe in 50 years, this YouTube video is going to find somebody and they're going to be like, "Hey, these girls were having that conversation.
Yeah.
They were part of the leading edge. This is part of the collective consciousness switching around."
I hope
Because
so.
we need to find our way. We need to find our way back. And I'm hopeful that that is definitely happening. I wish
Mm,
it was happening faster, but I think it is definitely happening.
mm. I see it in Europe. Like, I'm half Italian and I lived in Europe for a year. And I do see in Europe, they still have a resemblance of that kind of culture going there.
Yeah.
They have a lot of like multi-age homes. They have very stylish older women, especially
Yeah.
in Paris. When I was in Paris, I was following this lady down the Champs-Elysees, and it was just, she was so cool. She was dressed to the nines. She had great, long gray hair. She was smoking a cigarette. She was like, fuck you, I don't even care. But she was just, she was full of life. And I was just
Yeah.
like enamored by her. I was young and I was in my 20s. And oh my God, this woman, she is goals. Like, look at
Yeah.
her,
Yeah.
And so you see that sometimes still. And
It's
then what
amazing.
the thing that we have is you have a respect for that. And so you're like, yeah, you look forward to that. You're like, I can't wait to be like an old lady like her because I've seen that and
Yeah.
I've been exposed to that. Now I'm like looking forward to being that and being my own version of that. And I have
Right.
respect for those women, but no one's having respect for like the slobby woman who doesn't take care of herself because she's running a program
No,
from her
no.
subconscious, you know, or the
And
woman who is like doing so much plastic surgery, she doesn't even look
yeah,
like herself anymore. Like,
yeah.
what is happening? Ladies,
It's
come on.
it's so sad. It's so sad. And it is like you're familiar with GNM. Like these are all just different constellations and they tell a story. These are all manifestations of what the psyche has adapted to for survival, what we think we need to do for survival. And so there's a lot of empathy that I have when I see that kind of stuff
Mm,
because I see it in me too. I mean, I went and got a boob job to try to save my first marriage.
yeah.
Didn't work.
No, they never do.
They never do. Um, and I've had to live with the consequences, of that choice when I was 22 years old,
Yeah.
and it's like that kind of stuff, it's very real and I'm not bypassing personal responsibility at all, quite the contrary. But it's often in hindsight
Yeah.
that we can, if we have a chance at all of recognizing it, it's in hindsight. And then it's so riddled in shame that most people won't talk about it as an experience that they've learned from.
Yeah.
Like, how many women, I mean, I feel like it's becoming a little bit more of a conversation of having breast implants removed, but
Yeah.
like, how many women are actually owning the fact that they had boobs done to try to save a marriage
Yeah. Yeah.
and then to say that they regret it but they've made peace with it because it was you didn't know any better, right? And
Yeah.
now you know better. So it's like having that grace with yourself, being able to not sit in the shame spiral because that
Yeah.
just causes a whole nother list of bioconflicts.
And also not
And
avoid the shame spiral either.
yeah,
Like there's the thing, it's like you need to go into it and you need to know how to get out of it and process
yeah,
it and move through it.
yeah. You
Yeah.
can't get stuck there. You can't get stuck
Yes.
there. And
That's
I've
it.
I've been very in recent in the last 2 years or so, I've been very called to speak specifically into the Christian women's community because there is such a lack of personal responsibility and accountability in that community, and quite frankly, brainwashing
Mm,
to where vanity is evil and beauty is fleeting, and you don't need all that kind of stuff, so you can just walk around like a sack of potatoes and don't take care of yourself and be 50 pounds overweight, and you better believe that your husband needs to be faithful
mm,
regardless of how
mhm.
you present yourself in the relationship. And what I'm not saying, as a woman who has been through betrayal and infidelity, what I am not saying is that it is your fault if a man steps out on you.
Mhm.
What I am saying is put yourself in a position to not have to question if it's because your boobs are too small,
Yeah. And
or because you're overweight, or because you didn't wash your hair for 3 months,
someone's
right?
only going to respect you as much as you respect yourself. And if
Respect
you're
yourself.
presenting that you
Yes.
don't give a shit, then they're not going to give a shit.
Yes. I mean, put the shoe on the other foot. If he gained 100 pounds and didn't brush his teeth and never made time for you, I mean, would you respect him? Like, if he didn't go to work, AKA you're not doing whatever your agreed upon portion of the relationship is. He didn't go to work, he didn't provide for you. You're never interested in sex. And worse than that, you're not interested in finding out why you're not interested in sex.
Yeah.
Like the double standard here, I'm not trying to be callous. My point in asking these questions is thinking about it from a different perspective, because yes, wives submit to your husbands, but likewise, husbands should be laying down their lives for their wives. If you want to quote scripture, as Christians
Yeah.
love to do,
Quote the whole thing.
quote the whole thing. And let's be real here. Queen Esther, who's one of my favorite
Yes.
archetypal teachers to go into with my work, spent a year in beauty treatments to get ready for the king
Yeah.
for a one night stand, to be honest, because there was
Be
no guarantee.
one of his many ladies.
Yeah. Purity culture can't even with that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's so funny. It's so funny to me. So I'm like, we were created in the image of God. If you are a Bible believer, these are the Christian women that I'm talking to. If you are a Bible believer, I am no longer going to be your sister in Christ that is tolerating you preaching selectively and holding yourself and others to selective standards from Scripture when you are obnoxiously living in a state of misalignment with who you are as an identity in Christ, made in the image of likeness of God. I do not think God is some disheveled, overweight, unhealthy, sitting in the corner, mousy doormat of a being.
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense to me. Talk about glory, glory, hallelujah, like beauty. And I'm not saying that you're a goddess, but let's just be nuanced about this and use some common sense. If your body is the temple, treat it like one.
You are the reflection of God. What are you reflecting right now?
What are you reflecting right now? Are you slapping your creator in the face because you're not coming into you're disagreeing with who he says you are, right? How disrespectful, honestly,
Yeah.
to the ultimate masculine. Um, or are you coming into agreement with who he says you are and you are walking in obedience with who he says you are at a biologically feminine level, which includes beauty?
Mm-hmm.
Eve was the crown of creation.
Yeah.
Creation was not complete until Eve was in the garden with Adam. So remember who you are and start acting like it.
And beauty is the inspiration for men to reach deep into their masculine drive. Like
100%.
they get activated. You want your man and your husband to be more masculine, give them something to protect, give them something to fight for. They want to protect beautiful little things like that, and beautiful big things like buildings that are like
Yeah.
the creation that we had in our structure and our architecture of our world. People fought wars to
Yeah.
protect that so it didn't become like the Stalinist kind of brutalist architecture. They didn't want
Yeah.
that. They wanted beauty. They wanted that ultimate expression that came from the Renaissance. And the Renaissance was all about beauty. That was all
Yes.
about the reclamation. It was a rebirth, being reborn and honoring like how many beautiful paintings of woman in her curves, in her feminine, in her face, in her softness, and her structure as a whole were just worshipped, and the men in their
Yeah.
masculine and their the statue of David and all these sorts of things. It was just like this honoring of exactly who you are biologically.
Yeah.
And everybody leaned into that. And I'm such a proponent of that as well. I've talked about wearing makeup and dressing well on my channel quite often, and people get very triggered and they're like, oh, I have
Yeah.
3 kids. So what? So what?
Yeah.
Are you gonna not eat because you have 3 kids? There are
Right.
ways that you have to look after yourself. And I know someone who has 10 kids and she can still do it. If she
Yeah.
can still do it, so can you. There are things absolutely that you need to get in place. You need to get good support systems. You need to get your health and your self-worth working, your mental
Yeah.
health. Of course. Like makeup is not
Absolutely.
going to fix that, or like going to the gym is not going to fix that. But these are expressions of the value that is inside of you,
Yeah.
and to embrace and lean into your womanliness, your beauty. You don't have to change who you are. You express that and show that off because it is the glory of the creator.
Yeah,
Like, look at this beautiful
exactly.
thing that they have created.
Exactly. And it's not supposed to look like everyone else.
Yeah.
If anything, it's going to look very, very different from mainstream culture because mainstream culture is entirely perverted and distorted when it comes to the understanding of what beauty
Yeah.
is.
Have you seen that
So,
study where they were like men because my husband doesn't care if I wear makeup or not. And then there's this study where it's like men can't tell the difference between a woman wearing a full face of natural looking makeup and no makeup. They think that the woman wearing makeup is the no makeup. Like the no makeup look, that's what they think. They genuinely believe that that
yeah,
is no makeup. So when men say I don't like women that wear makeup, that's what they're referring to. They're actually referring to a full face of makeup. They just have no idea because men
yeah,
don't see the parts. They don't see the intricacies of what all the little bits and pieces that we've done. They just see the whole. And they're like,
right.
you're not distorted. You're not like not who you are. You are
Yeah,
still you. And it's beautiful. And I love that. You look very natural. You look refreshed. I enjoy that. That's what they're
yeah,
saying. They're saying, I don't enjoy women who distort themselves. And I don't enjoy women who don't look after themselves. They enjoy a woman who is in full bloom of that.
yeah. I love that. That's beautifully, beautifully stated. Yeah, and it's like
It's the same with
men,
body and curves. Like
yes,
the
yes,
the ideal woman being like super, super skinny is not attractive to a healthy male. Neither
no,
is a woman being overweight because it's instinctual, it's biological.
exactly. That's my post on if he needs you to be below 18% body fat with an abdominal wall that looks like a mini man's, he's not that straight.
100%. Something's going on with
Because
his hormones.
yeah, there's something biologically not very male there. If he needs you to be less feminine, that is not biologically male. But this is what happens in the fitness industry is women start to contort and distort themselves to call them pick me's or
Mm,
whatever. They're trying to impress a man, so they get in the ice bath or they
mm,
do 75 hard or
no.
they go on carnivore or they go on one of these crazy, 12-week diets or make a lifestyle change that works for a minute and then has nothing but a cascade of backlash later
Mm,
because he's not that hormonally male, or he would be protecting you
yeah.
as the feminine.
Yeah.
He would have a different awareness of what's going on there and not be attracted to certain things that are more masculine coming from you than they are feminine. He would be propelled by them
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't want a buddy in bed with him.
Mm-hmm. I always find that fascinating too when, on dating apps and stuff, people will be like, I'm looking for a workout buddy. Someone is going to, I'm like, find a man. Go to the gym with a man. Why are you looking for a woman who's going to go to the gym with you? That it, your ladies, your partner should not be pushing you at the gym. Like
No.
he should be like, go home, go have a smoothie, go do this, go do something else. Because
Yeah.
he shouldn't understand your biology. He shouldn't understand what that's like. He should be like, I don't know. You need to do your own thing and
Yeah.
find a woman to teach you how to do that. He shouldn't be
Right.
like, I'll coach you. Yeah, let's go harder. He's not cherishing you in that
No.
moment. He's not honoring your femininity in that moment. And like you were saying before, I so agree with that. This is not like a slight because none of us escaped the culture of hardcore feminism that we were raised in. None of
Yeah.
us, men or women. Men were just as messed up by it as women were. So this is like programs that everybody is running. And so it's
Yeah.
not to be like, screw that guy, that guy's an asshole. It's just that you just need to recognize the patterns and take responsibility for that. Take
Absolutely.
responsibility for yourself. And if he doesn't want to recognize that and he doesn't want to work on his own hormonal and biological responses, then you need to have responsibility in yourself and be like, am I going to be with this person who's going to draw me out and burn me out? Or am I going to be with someone who's going to cherish me and want to honor and protect me?
100%. Yeah. just a funny story, kind of to piggyback on that, when how I met my husband, my now husband, who is like he's my Boaz, for those of you who are familiar with scripture. Um, when he asked me out, he had seen me at the gym, but he didn't want to be that guy that approached me at the gym because he had seen guys do that to me
Mm,
while I was working out, and he read my body language and knew that I didn't like it.
mm.
So he was like, "Well, I don't know how I'm going to make this happen," but he was like, "I guess I'm going to be that guy that slides into her DMs because I don't want to like follow her into the parking lot after the gym and make her feel weird and scared, you know." Just very conscious man. And so he slides into my DMs and he's like apologizing about it because he's like, "I don't do this. Like, but there's no other way to contact you, you know?" And so I'm like, okay. And short story is he asked me out on our first date and he gave me three options for our first date. He's like, "If you're interested, I would love to take you out, whatever you're comfortable with. We can do a workout together, we could go to coffee, or we could go to dinner." Because I didn't know him from Adam. And I was like, number one, like what you just said about working out with men, I'd made that mistake multiple times and I wasn't going to do it again. So I was not interested in like broing up with him at the gym. I wanted to keep the polarity sacred. I also was kind of in a place where I was dating and I had multiple men that I was talking to, not sleeping with. Don't freak out, people. I
Big
was
difference.
talking to, big difference. And I was going out on really nice dates with these men. And so my dance card was a little bit full. And I had been in a couple situations where I had met a guy on a first date for a dinner and I was stuck for like 2 hours and it was horrible. So I was like, I'm just not going to take the risk. Coffee sounds great, you know? And now he's my husband. So like, just learning, of course, we're all going to make mistakes, but you have to admit that you need to learn through those, take responsibility and accountability, and then hold boundaries and set standards for yourself of how you're going to walk and maneuver through life, how you're going to carry yourself. When he asked me on a second date, he said, "Are you free Tuesday?" And I said, "No, I'm expensive, but I'm available Tuesday."
I
And
like that.
that is still a joke in our relationship to this day. He's like, "You're the best investment I ever made, and you were
It's
not cheap."
true. It's
It's true though.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah, a woman like that whole what do you bring to the table is hey, if you're even asking that question, you shouldn't be in the game. You've got no idea what a woman brings to the table. And if you do,
yeah,
and then you met that woman, you'd be fighting off dragons to secure her. It wouldn't be like, oh,
exactly.
I don't know, maybe we'll date for 5 years and see what happens. It's just you want to lock it down. Like instinctually,
Exactly.
biologically, that's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that.
That's
And it's true. Like we're expensive, but we're worth it.
Mhm. And just be confident in it. Why are you
100%.
trying to be? I mean, I was guilty of this. Again, I'm speaking from my own failures.
Yes.
Uh, Thank God that I at least tried to learn from. I was guilty of this. I wanted to be the cool girl. I
Yeah.
wanted to be the happy-go-lucky, don't stress him out, like,
Yep.
and I'm not saying be a bitch
Yep.
either, but like be real,
Yeah.
be honest, be authentic, be true. And the reality is, I'm like I am just like any other naturally hormonal woman. I have different little archetypes that peak out at different times of the month.
Yep.
My queen energy is what some people would call bitchy because they don't have a concept of boundaries in
Yes.
femininity. I'm not bitchy. It's just I hold my boundaries different in queen energy than I do in maiden energy, than I do in prophetess when I'm a little bit more introverted. Like these are all aspects of my personality that he loves, and it keeps it exciting. If you
Yes.
want to say, if you want to say it stresses him out, okay, fine. But actually, it just means I'm not boring and I
Yeah.
add a lot of flavor to his life.
That man
And
doesn't need to go out and find
No.
variety elsewhere because he is dating four different women every month.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's the
Exactly.
thing. It's we look for variety, but we don't necessarily need to look for that outside of relationship. We can have that
Yeah.
within our relationship because when we're truly connected to our inner world, then we're going to express in different ways. We're not going to be stagnant. No one wants to
Right.
get in like a stagnant lake or like dam that is looking a bit murky. No one's going to be like, "Ooh, refreshing." You want to
Yeah.
be in that river that's flowing and changing, and
Yeah.
not the rapids, not the crazy river. No one wants to get in river
Yeah.
crazy. You just want to get in like a nice river or a nice lake that's like looking clean and clear and it's looking like you don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a fun time. Maybe you could go
That's
water skiing. Maybe you
perfect.
could go swimming, whatever. There's lots of different, maybe you could go tubing. Who knows?
Exactly. Oh, that's a perfect analogy because like the swampy stagnancy is where disease and
Yeah.
sickness
Yeah.
is that's where that happens, and our bodies are 70 plus percent water. So
Yep.
think about it, like the water of your body is not immune to that. So move, get your energy in motion, move your body. I loved the five senses from Japan that you mentioned earlier. Like I'm
Mm.
gonna remind myself of that more consciously because I'm very conscious about my circadian rhythm and cycle and obviously the
Mm.
things that I do. But I like that, like little mini checklist of did you get your five senses met today,
Yeah.
and like what those could look like in different ways. Because I just did a master class a couple weeks ago on scent
Mm.
and the different phases of the feminine cycle and how we can lean on scent to inspire us, to
Yes.
motivate us, to comfort us, to, just different things and what goes on with our
That's why we
neuroplasticity.
we bring flowers
Yeah.
in the house. Like,
Yeah.
why do women always just love to have flowers in the house? We see
Yeah.
something pretty, we touch something pretty, we smell something pretty. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Why does my husband always say, "Oh, you smell so good" when he comes home from work and he's been around stinky men and
Yes.
people all day? Like the sensory component of that. Why does cooking feel
Yeah.
so good for women? Like the process of cooking, even men too like to cook, like the scent, the aroma of the food in the house, like
Yeah. You
all
want to
of
sell a
this.
house, you bake cookies and then
Bake
it
cookies.
sells.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
are, yeah, we forget. This is the thing. We forget that we're biological. We forget that we're still mammals. We're still just primal creatures.
Yeah.
And you can't out psychology that. Like I don't know
Mhm.
if you know Jaguar Heart. He's on Instagram, but he has
Yeah.
this saying that's like,
Love
um,
him.
what does he say? Intellect and maybe it's emotions. Maybe it's intellect and emotions are always going to be outdone by biology and instinct.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't, or intellect and psychology. Yeah. You can't outthink and out idea your instinct and your biology, your animal, the animal
No.
in you.
No, you can't. You can't. And the nuance there that is challenging to discern is when we have allowed ourselves to be plugged into the matrix and have allowed our biology to be hijacked
Yeah.
because it does. When
Yeah.
we are on the birth control pill, when our toxic load is way
Mm.
too high from our environment, when there's the laundry list is massive. So peeling that off and coming out of the pod, like I use Matrix terminology on purpose because like those movies are freaking documentaries. Like I go back to
100%.
like Neo waking up in the pod with all that goo coming off of him, and he's looking around, and there's just a million pods of people hooked up, being siphoned for energy all around him. I mean,
That's
that's very,
reality.
it's very morbid visual, but that is reality at a psychological level. And our
Yeah.
biology, we're being harvested energetically in every realm. So just
Mm,
waking up to that, I'm not trying to instill fear in anyone by saying that. I'm trying to empower you to
yeah.
recognize the reality instead of just allowing yourself to sleepwalk through life and being harvested. You can take that back and stand in your autonomy and reclaim your birthright to sovereignty and live like the image bearer of God that you are. But you have to reclaim it. It's not just going to be handed to you. In your free will, you have the power to reclaim it. So,
So well said. So well said. Yeah, the nuance of that is really, you're not a victim to your biology either.
no,
So, like, don't
no,
be like, oh, well, I just, I can't help it. It's all this testosterone. It's why I beat this woman up. That's not an
right.
excuse either. So, yeah, I think that's you just said that so beautifully. I think that's a great note to leave it on. And
Okay.
yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing your perspective on everything. And I've just really enjoyed this chat and getting to know you. It's been so nice.
Me too. It was lovely. Thank you so much for having the space and sharing it with me and inviting me. It was awesome. Just really
Yeah.
great.
I feel like we should get a little women's symposium going and put like Martine and you and me and Hasti. Maybe we'll get everyone together and we can we can do a big podcast one time. That I think that sounds like a plan.
I would love that. I will stay up at any hour to make that happen with the time zones.
Yes, I love it too. Okay, well, tell people where they can find you because you have an app. Yes.
Yes. Yep. So you can find me at Flex Your Feminine on Instagram or flexyourfeminine.com. Those are kind of my main hubs. And either one of those, you will find a way to get to my app, which you can download for free and you can talk to me there, or you're welcome to DM me on Instagram. But the app is where my fitness programs and memberships are delivered, where we do our coaching calls bi-weekly, different options, different current offerings are being promoted at different times. So just check it out and come talk to me if you have any questions.
Mm. I'm excited. I've been thinking about doing one, so I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, Kayla.
Do
Yeah.
it. It's
I,
fun. Come on in. The water's fine, I promise.
it looks fine from here. I'm definitely gonna jump in. Well, thank you very much, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Lauren.
Bye.